welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, presented by Coors Light. Go from full time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. I'm your host, William Liu, and joining the first segment today, I'm with my co-hosts Blake Murphy and Alex Wong. How you guys doing today?
Hey, what's going on, man? Anything different today? Blake?
Nah, nothing I noticed.
Yeah.
It's a little more like room up here.
Yeah. Will seems a little calmer.
Yeah.
You think? Just because they won?
Yeah. How was practice, Will?
Practice was all right. Came in very, very late, but just came in right on time, so we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Good to go with the show.
You and the Raptors defense coming through for the bare minimum just in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, get out of here, fake Will.
we got the real Will Lou on the
Yo.
show now.
Raptor show. They'll trade me for a box of crumble cookies.
Man,
Thanks, Jer.
JR, appreciate you.
You are going to get traded.
Still no chain.
No chain.
Still no chain, unfortunately. Good job, though. Thanks for bringing the French press as well, man. Appreciate you.
Oh, that's why he brought the whole box.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Hard
What's
worker.
going on?
What's
guys?
going on? Will just came from practice.
I did.
How
What
was
you-
practice?
Yeah, what are you doing at
How
practice,
was practice? Practice was all right. You know,
Yeah, what'd
they
you do?
tell you to go there for 12:30. It starts at 1:30.
bro? Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
You know there's rules to this.
there are rules to this, but you know, got a couple questions in. Talked to Scotty a little bit. Obviously, big jump in his career this season has been the 3-point shooting. So I wanted to get to talk to him about
Do you have a scoop for us, an answer, anything?
a scoop from
Give us-
from the post
give
from
us
the
a
scrum.
Give us a tidbit from the scrum.
Well, there have been no tweets out yet. So whatever anything
Oh,
you
yeah?
quote or paraphrase right now, we got one that all we got is OG said it's a top 15 dunk of his career.
Give us something.
Yeah,
By the way,
yeah.
Dennis Schroeder, 240.
That's right. That's right. I did not see Dennis shooting post game, so
Dennis
I think he was
Schroeder.
actually really
Sorry.
trying to get ready and get out because typically he is one of the guys that takes a while. What's the scoop from practice? Okay, so I asked Scotty about just the 3-point shooting in general. I'm just curious to see sort of if he changed anything in terms of the process in the offseason. He wouldn't really talk about, you know, if there was no hard number of like, you know, I took 500 threes this summer versus like 200 threes this summer. He wasn't tracking that. But it was certainly a big focus of his offseason was to sort of buff up that aspect of his game. And, you know, I also asked him about just, is he noticing defenses like changing their approach towards him? Is it changing on the scouting report that people got to close out harder to him? And, you know, he's starting to see a little bit of that. But at the same time, it just really depends on the team, really. And a team like Atlanta yesterday, for example, they did leave him open a couple of times, and
Now,
I'm
was
loving
that-
the aggressiveness.
Was that by strategy or just the Hawks like regularly leave everyone open?
It's a 50-50 proposition. I mean, I think the Hawks certainly don't play great defense. It's not breaking news, but I've noticed just throughout the year, and we've all pointed this out, that just like when Scotty has that chance to shoot the three, especially when teams go under or teams are down or anything like that, he's aggressively looking for those threes. And yeah, it's been one of the biggest developments of the season for the Raptors, especially
One
long
of it's the
term.
best. It's the best development.
Yeah,
of
and
the
it's
season.
probably
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
important for figuring out what his long-term upside is. Obviously, the defense taking a step is great. You know, he's out in transition playmaking more just because he's more empowered to push off a defensive rebound. The pick and roll play has been better, but how you shoot the three fundamentally changes how defenses guard you, and that changes the spacing dynamic on the floor. And every inch that someone has to move closer to Scotty on a closeout or just not helping off of him, that's an extra little bit of edge if Scotty decides to try to go by them, if a screen comes, you know, getting that corner. So it opens up a lot for him individually. I don't know if it opens up a ton for the team just because Scotty's going to have the ball in his hands most of the time as we kind of move forward with this Raptors thing. And if you look at some of the shooting splits, it gets even more encouraging. So Scotty's only taking, you know, a little over one pull-up three a game, but he's hitting 32% on those. And that's not, obviously, that's not 40%. That's not the best mark in the league, but that is a respectable enough, like, you're still going to go under against Scotty if it's a high enough pick and roll above the three-point line, but that's enough to make you think about it. If you can get that up to like 34, 35%, teams really have to think about that. It's also worth noting, I think, that he's at 39.4% for the whole season, and most of his three-point attempts come above the break. So those are not only a more difficult, like that's a tougher spot on the floor to shoot from, but it also means that when you're looking at what you can do spacing-wise, you know, if you had, like, some guys will only be able to space the defense out to the corner. And that, stretches the floor horizontally, but like every defense is stretched out pretty far east-west. But having guys who can space above the break, it's something that we've talked about. Hey, if OG could move some of those corner threes up, if Gary Trent is on, he's a good wing three-point shooter, that really opens up your offense. So the fact that, he's shooting 39.5% on like kind of a star diet of three-point attempts is, I think, really encouraging. If this was like 39% on wide open catch and shoot corner threes, you'd still be encouraged by it. But this is a way more difficult shot mix.
Yeah. 3 or 4 last night for Scotty from 3. So just continuation of his progress there.
Yeah, and I think adding to what Blake said too, like he's taken a lot of these. I've seen him hit a lot of these in crunch time too, like in close games in the fourth quarter, like just situationally. He seems so comfortable shooting these, and obviously his overall play has been really encouraging. And maybe we can use that to kind of pivot to last night's season-saving win. Over the Atlanta Hawks.
Life-saving.
Sorry, I have one more note on the shooting. Just
to
your point about him not wanting to talk about it. Pascal hit 5 of 6 threes last night.
Yes.
And until 2 games ago, as Samson Folk wrote about at Raptors Republic, Pascal was the worst three-point shooter in the league on any amount of volume. And he has that, the bench mob year. He has the worst three-point shooting season of all time with a certain amount of three-point attempts. So that was good to see come along as well. But similar to Scotty, I tried to get Pascal to talk a little bit about the process. Or like, are you doing anything to shake it off? Are you looking at mechanics? Are you just trying to get X number of shots in? I think only shooting specialists like talking about that. Even Grady doesn't like to talk about his actual jump shot all that much, other than like it's been the same forever.
Since his mom made it when he was 3. By the way, I did see Grady, his mom, his dad, and a couple of his siblings in the crowd, like post game, because I had to run downstairs yesterday because my microphone was broken for some reason. So typically I record in the radio booth in the 600s. Ran downstairs to the courtside where E and Jonesy would typically be calling the game.
Shouts to E and Jonesy.
Yeah, I had to take over the headset. Big shouts to JR, of course.
Keep doing your job, JR.
Yeah, thanks for giving me coffee, JR. Literally,
do your job.
But I called the game from there, and then afterwards I was just in the bowl, and his family's here. Oh, it's actually very adorable.
That's beautiful, man. What's up?
Go ahead.
No, did you want to apologize to a fan as well? Or
I did also want to apologize to a fan because again, we had a 5-minute break for me to make it from all the way at the ceiling of the Scotia. I'm not even kidding when I say ceiling. Like
and the elevators were down yesterday.
Yes, we were eye to eye with Ed Bauer, I believe. Like in the rafters.
People call him Eddie, I think, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one of those.
You're trying to talk about Johnny Bauer?
I think it's Johnny.
Is it Johnny Bauer?
Ed Bauer is like a clothing and like stationery
whatever.
company.
Eddie Bauer.
Whatever, one of those. Boris Salming or like Matt Sundin, kind of eye to eye with those kind of banners. Going downstairs, and so it was difficult. One fan was like, "Whoa, Will, I love your show. Can I take a photo?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm so sorry, but I actually have like 1 more minute left in this break to get on air."
Yeah.
So I apologize to you, whoever it was.
So if that fan is listening,
it's not a fan anymore.
Please don't tell people I'm a jerk. It was really for work purposes. I promise.
Reach out to me. I'll arrange a meet and greet at one of these home games.
So it's been chaotic 2 episodes for me so far, I gotta say.
So did your mic break when Scotty finished that ridiculous fouled reverse underneath the basket in the fourth quarter run? Because I could see you, like, you're obviously very demonstrative and emotive up there,
nice.
Whether things are going really poorly or things are going really well.
Yeah.
I could see at that point in the game, because that was like the counter run. Like they come out of a timeout. Atlanta makes this big run. Then you get the Yak blocking the floater, the OG trail dunk, Yak blocking another floater, and then Scotty with that ridiculous finish. My guess is that's when the mic broke.
I think I ran out of our booth like at least 3-4 times last night.
You did like a soccer goal celebration, shirt up over your head, running around.
Just for context, the Raptors are now 10-14.
This is all it takes for me. This is all it takes. An 8-point lead, 3 minutes left to go in the game. But no, those were great. Those were great plays, and I was really happy with Yak to get those 2 contributions, because I think that completely flipped the game on its head. And without that, I actually don't know, because I was really worried about Atlanta's offense just being able to like push it to another gear down the stretch. Obviously, Trae had like 35 and 17. By the way, Trae Young had 35 points, 17 assists, went to the foul line 6 times, and turned the ball over 5 times. That has to be one of the highest usage games against the Raptor all season. Like, he might have used like 40 or 50% of Atlanta's possessions.
It's also it's such a contrast to the Nick Nurse years where like priority number one was the star doesn't beat you.
Right.
It's a pretty good game. Like that's a
great game.
Tyrese Halliburton stat line other than the 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
He's.
Really was.
I'm excited to ask Dennis about this because Dennis got most of the assignment, obviously, and we'll get into some of the specifics. Darko changed his rotation patterns up a little bit to manage the Trae Young matchups, but how he compares to some of the other like really high usage spread pick and roll guys defensively, because it looks like obviously he's not like as bursty as some other guys. He is not quite the shooter that Steph is, but he looks like really difficult to stick with.
Well, I think it was interesting because I wanted to talk about sort of, because it's a rematch against Atlanta on Friday. So I really wanted to talk about sort of the Raptors specific coverage against Trae Young, what they can do better. And one of the things there for me was just looking at Trae. It's just like he changes up the angle in which he passes all the time. So it's really hard to sort of like wall off where he's going to go. Sometimes he'll throw the pass early as well. Like things where he's coming off a pick and roll and the roller is in line with the defender. So let's say it's like he gets a screen from Okongwu, and then Precious is guarding Okongwu and he's guarding the screen. Precious and Onyeka will be like side by side coming off that screen, and Trae is just like maybe a fraction inside the 3-point arc, and you'll just throw the pass so early, knowing where his guy is going to be, that little half edge. He is such a gifted passer that it is really hard to cut him off.
And if he drives off of that screen as well, like not even to the rim, just down the side of the key, Yak has to, because like you're usually gonna have to chase over top of that. You're not going under against Trae Young. So Dennis Schroeder, Malachi Flynn, or whoever it is chasing around, and Yak kind of has to shuffle hands up to like make sure that Trae can't get that off until there's a recovery. And then some of the angles of those passes is just, you would think if you're a big man and you shuffle with them down the key, like how are you going to throw it over me? And he finds these interesting angles. It's actually something Dennis is really good at too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I do wonder what Dennis thinks of Trae, utilizing some of those same skills. And
For sure.
we see very, very quickly yesterday why they called Clint Capella the Pancake Mamba.
Oh, this man was feasting.
He was eating for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then OG ended his career. So,
Well, that's only one of the top 15 dunks of his career,
Only top 15.
according to OG.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Funny man.
Pancake Mamba.
Yo, keep all those Mamba clips ready for Andy Liu segment 4.
No,
we need another.
keep all those. No, I was looking.
Another
I
Asian
was,
perspective on that.
I was looking at the box score after the game yesterday, and first of all, Patty Mills is on the Hawks. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's right.
You knew that? Okay.
Oh, you didn't watch warm-ups? You weren't there at 4:45 to watch warm-ups?
I
Like
wasn't-
somebody?
I wasn't here from 2 to 4.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, looking at the box score, this felt like a Raptors win from last season. Kind of a Nick Nurse formula. They had all their starters except Jakob play 34 plus minutes. You got some contributions from Gary off the bench, but
Only second half. First half was pretty
and
bad.
it's interesting. I mean, wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this because like Darko talked earlier this week about wanting to give the starters a few more games to figure it out. And again, I don't know how much you guys are trying to extract from this one win over Atlanta, but clearly the starters played really well. Scotty, Pascal, OG scored 20 plus, all scored 20 plus for the second straight game. So, how are you guys feeling about the starting 5 coming out of this one?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be difficult to go game by game and say we're going to change it from game to game. If you make a starting 5 change, it's pretty significant. And I mean, like, even when the Raptors began day 1 of training camp, when they got out to Victoria, and this is like at the start of October, from day 1, the starting 5 was the starting 5. They got all the reps together. So to make a change like that would have required a pretty significant thing. In retrospect, when Darko said, give me 1 or 2 more games, I think he means Atlanta's coming up, and our starting 5 can put up 114 points, which is what the starting 5 did last night. So no one's really calling for the starting 5 to be changed. Last night, they closed the game with the starting 5 once again. They did a great job of closing them. The guy who would typically come out of the starting 5 to close games would be a Jakob, but not only did he have the 2 biggest blocks of the game to swing the game, but even when they went to intentional fouling, Jakob still went to the foul line and made both, even though we swore that he was going to go 1 for 2 on those. So I think it's difficult to change it after a game like that. But, of course, it's contingent on the fact that they need more shooting. That's one of the biggest things that's been befalling the starting lineup. So when Pascal goes 5 of 6 and Scotty goes 3 of 4 and OG chips in with 2 more threes as well, and even Jakob kind of pump fake towards a 3 at one point, like, okay, then all of a sudden it's not a problem. But, of course, in order to keep that going, you really need the 3-point shooting to be there. And also, you need the defense to be just better. I mean, even yesterday, they did not play a great defensive game, I thought.
No,
But-
I thought they played a very poor defensive game. Like, honestly, the film session today, the takeaway should be we played 8 minutes of defense, and that was enough. Imagine if we played 24 minutes of defense against this team that plays none themselves. Now, in terms of closing line, I also thought Yak's passing was really important last night.
Yeah, right.
Some of that is just like what Atlanta gives you, but I think he had 6 assists, probably a chance for a couple other ones. He also probably should have shot 8 for 8, not 5 of 8 at the couple of misses in close.
He squandered a number of like opportunities around the basket. He got blocked a couple times by Pancake Mamba. Can I hear the Pancake Mamba again, man? It's just so calming.
While Derek looks for that, in terms of the
Derek?
in terms of the closing lineup, and I wonder what you think of this. Well, look, first, in terms of changing the starting 5,
Yeah.
I know Gary had one good stretch last night, but it gets hard to make the change the starting lineup argument when Gary is playing as poorly as he did in the first half last night or has been recently. Now, yesterday, I thought there was a reasonable case to close with Precious Achiuwa because this is something that wasn't unique to yesterday. This happened a couple times last year. Precious Achiuwa, for whatever reason, is really, really good against that Trae Young Capella or Trae Young Okongwu pick and roll. Like Trae turned the ball over twice trying to ISO on a Precious switch last year or yesterday. And if you go back to last year, Atlanta at one point in one of the later season meetings stopped using Precious's man to screen because Precious was so effective against those actions. So I thought we might see Precious close last night because he had been pretty good defensively. But obviously, Jakob was there as well. Now, I guess the concern is you have a good night with the starting lineup against a really poor defensive team. If you do it again Friday, and they get back to like, hey, their numbers are even on the season. Maybe we ride it out. I don't know how much you want to look at Atlanta, Charlotte over the course of a week as a like it's fixed sample.
Yeah, this is the problem of, I think this team is beyond looking just game to game. I mean, obviously happy to extract some of the positives. And the other one I was going to ask you about, Blake, is, the number
Pancake Mamba.
Oh, man.
Thanks, Derek. Tape delay.
Pancake Mamba.
Scotty, Pascal, OG scoring 20 plus together for a second straight game. That's not nothing. What are you seeing from just kind of their synergy together between those three right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think last night is what we have tried to express on this show for the whole season is that the Barnes Anunoby Siakam trio is not the issue. Like those pieces can fit together, and you see against a small team like Atlanta where they only have the size to match up with one of those guys, someone's going to have an edge. Maybe two guys are going to have an edge somewhere else. This is this team had to dust, and part of this was because of injuries. They're down Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, but they had to go to a Capella Okongwu unit. Like those two were playing together, and normally they use those guys, pretty strictly as centers. So that's how big the size advantage that Toronto had was. And Wesley Matthews was like pretty ineffective. He's normally a 2-guard that guards up a position or two for teams. So, we've been saying like, hey, Siakam, Anunoby, Barnes, that trio can work together. The issues have been, well, how do the pieces fit around them? Do you have, obviously not enough spacing with Schröder and Pirtle? Do you have the bench pieces who can, warrant playing with those guys a little bit more? And we didn't even see much of a change to that part of the rotation pattern yesterday. I think they tried, but then Barnes and Anunoby both got in foul trouble. So I think they were trying to give us a little bit more of that. But it just shows that, like, I mean, look, those guys also went 10 for 15 on their threes, and that's going to make up a big difference here. But, like, it doesn't take much better process to be able to involve those three guys. And Will, where I'm curious how you feel about it is, the trade-off with that is most of those buckets, even though they did have 39 assists on 50 field goals last night, that's
Super
really,
impressive.
really strong.
Yeah.
But a lot of those Barnes and Siakam buckets were not coming from the like, hey, we're going to DHO. It was like, we've got mismatches all over the floor. Our guys are going to cook.
Yeah. It is just a case of, we talked to Mark Stein yesterday on the show, and I was reading his Substack, and he talked to Rick Carlisle. And he was asking Rick Carlisle, was like, you were such a structured coach offensively. You were such a disciplined coach defensively. How did you end up being the coach of the Pacers, who are so unstructured offensively, was so free-flowing, but also you guys play so little defense? And he talked about, his answer was, the job of the coach is to bring the best out of the roster available to you in any given year. And I understand that there is definitely a ball movement aspect and there's a player movement aspect. Those things are going to be implemented. But at the end of the day, the best thing that these players on the Raptors do, these big forwards, is they put pressure on the paint. They get 2 feet into the paint. They draw help, and then they're good passers. OG's a good passer. Pascal's a great passer. Scotty is a fantastic passer. So you get them the ball, and you play off of that. And from there, you got to trust that other guys can able to play off of each other. And I thought in terms of the fit of those 3 guys, what was encouraging to me is OG attacking some closeouts yesterday, taking a mid-range shot, getting all the way to the basket, cutting and finishing around 2-3 defenders in a crowd. Those are all really good things and great essential skills you need to have alongside of Pascal, alongside of Scotty. Scotty doing the same thing.
Scotty Barnes.
Hitting the threes, being able to attack closeouts, finish at the basket. Pascal doing the same thing as well. And of course, there's an element of that where you give the ball to Jakob and you let him sort of, play those high-low passes. Atlanta, the way they were covering yesterday, Clint Capella was sagging so far back that you could literally put an entire Denny's worth of pancakes in between them. There was that much space. So Jakob had no pressure on every pass, right? And he could deliver those. But ultimately, that's how you're going to play through your strengths. It's not so much like playing through the pick and roll, the DHOs. It's so static a lot of times for the Raptors.
And I mean, the constant under is just really
it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
Really
and unless you start running those DHOs much lower on the floor, where if someone goes under, they're underneath the basket. Yeah. And we've seen that at times. Like if you remember back to the Ronde year, him and Kyle would do pick and roll at the charge circle, basically, because you can't go under on that part of the floor. But yeah, at some point you've got to, let your stars go. And Alex, to your initial point, this was also the fewest minutes the bench played all year.
Yeah,
64. How do you feel about that? Because we've been saying over and over, there is a formula to play better. It's just, is it in line with what the team's actual goals are? And last night we see it. Hey, you hand the ball to your 3 best players or your 2 best players, and then OG, as kind of a high end play finisher. And yeah, you don't play your bench very much because they haven't been that effective.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. I think at this point we know who Gary is. We know who Precious is. We know who Malachi is. We know who Chris Boucher is. If the next 20 games, whatever the run up to the trade deadline, is for you to evaluate the future of the team, we need to see as much of this trio of Scotty, Pascal, and OG as possible. And it's I know, Will, you've been talking about this every time you pick the games now. You're like, I don't know which Raptors team is going to show up. Time's ticking for these 3 guys based on the contract situation and everything. These next 6 weeks, 2 months, I think is really critical for these 3 guys to show that, I don't know, prove to the front office or convince the front office that they should be kept together or whatever it is. However you want to frame it. Yeah. I just think this is the main storyline now for the next 15 to 20 games.
Yeah. Last thing, just to circle back on the Trae Young coverage, because again, he had 35 points and 17 assists. Raptors do need to do a better job of covering him. And for me, that was definitely what I wanted to look at film-wise this morning was while I was at Raptors practice, just watching a whole ton of clips.
So before you go, can I ask a question about what you saw?
Sure.
Trae really going off against those bench-heavier units, and when the Raptors, at least in the second half, when the Raptors starting lineup was out there, they did. I know nobody defended. Points. Nobody defended what 17?
17
against the bench,
just against the bench units. Yeah.
And they didn't play They didn't play many minutes.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's where a postgame show
that backs up the how it felt.
Yeah. Well, this is where in the postgame show I gave Darko that kind of credit because obviously we've been pretty. I've definitely been very critical of Darko.
Yeah.
Tactically, right. And I thought this was probably his best in-game adjustment, most notable one that we've seen this season. Where in the first half, he didn't pair Dennis's minutes with Trae Young's minutes because Trae came out the game early in the first quarter, came back into the game with the second unit, and Dennis played a lot of the first quarter, and then Malachi came in. And it's not just all Malachi's fault, but at the same time, he is the point of attack coverage against Trae Young. And so you need him to be, better, or you need your better on-ball defender, that being Dennis, for that matchup to be matched up against Trae. And you saw in the second half, when Trae subbed out the game, Dennis subbed out the game. When Trae came back into the game, Dennis came back into the game. And part of the reason, as you mentioned, is because Trae went out for 17 points in the end of the first quarter, start of the second quarter period, when he was up against the Raptors' second units. And, there was just a lot of things that they weren't really doing. The other thing, too, is just they need to be able to find a way to send a third defender at that pick and roll.
Because the Capella lob is there every time.
It's there every time. So what you need to do is have whoever's on the weak side tag over and bump Capella so that he's not just getting a free run to the rim, that he has to, at least get around that. Of course, the risk there is Trae throwing the cross-court pass into the corner, but that's where you hope that your length is able to at least make that pass a little bit harder and then close out a little bit harder in the corner.
And it's one thing if it's Bogdanovic in the corner who can attack that late closeout and make another play. But if it's Sadiq Bey or something like that, he's going to miss that shot and then run in and get his offensive rebound and then miss that shot and then score on his offensive rebound.
That's Pistons culture right there.
In terms of what the two different units did against Trae, what did you pick up that Dennis, at least in the second half, because again, the first half I didn't think anyone defended particularly well, that Dennis was more effective doing against Trae than Malachi or whoever else had to pick him up?
Well, I think first half, Dennis had a bit of this issue too. It just didn't happen where Trae was doing the scoring. Trae was more making the passes against Dennis, and Trae was doing more of the scoring against Malachi. But regardless, you can't let Trae get middle. Like, you just cannot let him get middle. Obviously, you're not going to go under these screens. He was shooting from 35. He took like 8 3-point shots from above 30 feet yesterday, and he made 4 of them. It's kind of terrifying when he had to cover against that. So you definitely can't go under any of those. But if you do at least try to navigate the screen, you just can't get stuck on it. And one thing I noticed that Dennis does in yesterday's game, he does a really great job of spinning. So when he gets caught on the screen, he'll literally do a spin move so that the screen won't stick to him, and then he's like meeting Trae like midway, essentially right above the free throw line. Whereas Malachi doesn't do that move, and he just gets hung up on the screen, and that really creates a 2-on-1 where Trae thrives. So it's a little veteran savvy tricks. I mean, we can ask Dennis about it too, but he's the bigger picture is he's the best coverage for him, and I'm happy that Darko made that in-game adjustment because there hasn't been a lot of in-game adjustments that have really stood out. No offense.
Yeah, you guys got to ask Dennis about getting swung on by Bogdan Bogdanovic.
It's in there.
It's in the rundown. That's a World Cup final rematch, right?
That's
there.
right.
Oh man, what else? Notes from the game. Pascal got the chain. Oh, did you want it?
Yeah, sorry. I have a Dennis follow-up for you guys. I mean, I mentioned earlier the tweak in rotation pattern, and some of that was Trae Young dictated, some of it was foul trouble dictated. But this idea, and we got to see it in only a tiny sample. It's not a large sample on the season, but Dennis in a more bench-heavy group where even though Malachi is on the floor, he's the organizer. You can use some pick and roll with him. Malachi hasn't shot the 3 particularly well lately, but theoretically he could space a little bit. Do you want to see more of that? Do you like that tweak, or is that a matchup dependent one for you?
Oh, I like that. I like that adjustment. I like that tweak. I think it's funny because we're gonna have Dennis on the show. We could ask him these direct questions.
But I mean,
2:40.
He's the guy who was guarding Trae last night, and he's the guy whose rotation pattern changed. So I think it's worth. Also, my guess is he won't come on here and be like, "Yeah, we should see more of that. I should actually come off the bench." I just don't think that's going to be his answer.
You're right. I would love it to be the answer, but
are you guys gonna ask him about Jeff Teague too?
You know what? I will finally ask him about Jeff Teague.
Let's find time.
I mean, he hasn't really wanted to answer too many questions about
we still haven't asked him about the OG thing either. Yeah. Which I gotta ask him.
We gotta keep that one.
Speaking of fights, by the way, I'm not gonna transition to that. Don't worry.
For a more positive stretch of play.
You talking Scott Foster?
Scott Foster had a black eye.
Yeah, there's really nothing else to report except that Scott Foster was reffing with a black eye last night.
And I looked it up after the game because I was like, is anyone else talking about this? And he had the black eye even when he refereed the in-season tournament.
Okay.
The final, I believe.
So if we're to trace the timeline, this might have happened in Vegas?
No, because again, obviously everyone knows who Scott Foster is. The referee, he's got that beef with Chris Paul.
Yeah, watch the Tim Donaghy docs.
Yeah. He's the one who looks like Eric Roberts, the kind of hey, that guy's in everything bad guy. He's always a bad guy and stuff.
He's the uncut Gems character who ultimately, spoilers, ends the movie. Let's just say
R.I.P. Howie.
But yeah, he fully has a black eye. I've never seen an official with a black eye, and it's undeniably a black eye. I don't know anything else other than getting punched in the eye.
It's the blackest of black eyes.
It's right under his left eye. I'm telling you, look it up.
Since Uncut Gems come out, do we have a minute to be non-serious?
We have 2 hours, my brother. Pancake Mamba.
It got announced yesterday that A24 is doing another like sports-ish movie, and Benny Safdie is going to direct it.
I saw this with The Rock.
The Rock as Mark Hunt. So Mark Hunt has this crazy story, like an early days UFC guy, and like was like way bigger than you think of, even UFC fighters. Okay. So The Rock, like body wise, can pull it off, and like, you know, we'll see acting wise, but they're almost the same age. Like The Rock is 51. They're like, well, we can't have Mark Hunt play himself, maybe because the acting side, but also he's 54. But they're having The Rock play this guy, even though The Rock's in his 50s too.
Yeah, you know, my challenge to The Rock is be somebody other than The Rock.
And that's going to be the challenge, because he's never done that really.
You know, it's so disappointing to me because, like, you know, Blake, you know this, and Will, you probably know this too.
Yeah,
like,
what's up?
The Rock was one of the best, if not the best, personalities when he was in wrestling. And he's been completely like sanitized in Hollywood. He just plays the same role, like you guys mentioned over and over again.
Yeah,
it's one of the biggest fall offs.
It's tough, but he is extremely rich and keeps getting lots of money to do these things.
And running for president, perhaps.
But we can say he's not the actor that Dave Bautista is.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, Drax, Hotel Artemis, Dune.
Yeah.
Bautista got chops, man.
Yeah,
I want Bautista.
By the way, your Civic came up the other day. My 95 Altima, when it was on its last legs, the running joke with my friends is like, if it went over 80, it would start to do the Batista pyro, where he'd go like this and the machine gun pyro would go off. That's just what my car would do if it went over 80.
My mom's watching right now and be like, God damn, I want to forget about that car. Yeah. You know, where I won't be taking my car to this Sunday, but I will be figuring out, is I'm having a prehistoric book signing in Markham, guys.
Wow.
At the Cha Time downtown Markham location this Sunday, 2 to 4 p.m., 169 Enterprise Boulevard. A few people have messaged me, you know, uptown locations wanting me to be there because they want, you know, a book that they've purchased to be signed. So come through. I can personalize that for you. Also going to have a limited number of hardcover copies there for sale. And we're also having an in-store raffle. If you come and buy a bubble tea, you'll enter into a draw for a Cha Time prehistoric prize pack, which will include a signed copy of my book and a hello and welcome hat.
Wow.
Via Will.
Is this why you asked me to bring a hello and welcome hat to the office today?
Yes, sir. This Sunday, prehistoric book signing, Cha Time, downtown Markham, 2 to 4 p.m., 169 Enterprise Boulevard.
I have an ignorant bubble tea question.
Okay.
Are there different like flavors of it, or it's just like you get a bubble tea and the tapioca balls are the flavor? How does that work?
We just entered an entire world.
We need Will to take
potential sponsorship.
We got to get Devlin back on for this.
You know, breaking news sources: Devlin has actually came up to us pregame yesterday. It was like, "Where's my bubble tea deal?" And we're like, "It's only for." Oh, we can't say that because Blake's here too. We was like, "It's only for Asians."
Well, I mean, I'm bubble tea ignorant.
No. Here's the thing: we got to.
Listen, I saw your top 100 album list.
It's more than just
really familiar with your game.
I wasn't familiar with your drink. It's more than just one segment that we can do on this. So I will say, just for now, there are probably like hundreds of flavors, basically at this point.
How unserious? Yeah, we can give you 100 albums,
as in the things that they put into the drink. Different sugar levels, ice levels. We'll bring you some products.
We have nothing on the rundown for tomorrow right now, so get ready.
Okay, you know what? Your Uber Eats order has arrived tomorrow as well. I will be here tomorrow.
Did I tell you? Actually, I told Will this story, but earlier this year I ordered Uber Eats, as I do, and the Uber Eats delivery person was Chinese.
Yeah.
And you know how sometimes when they arrive, they're like, "Oh, what's your buzz code?" Or like, "Hey, you gotta let me up." This man straight up started texting me in Chinese.
Yeah, he saw Wong.
But
he's like Alex Wong. You should be able to know what, you know, what that lodi means. Okay.
All I wrote back was drop it off at the door in English.
Yo, that's wild, man.
Anyways.
What were you ordering? Hungry Panda?
Probably McDonald's.
Wow. Do your parents text you in Chinese, or they text you in English?
My parents text me in English,
okay,
but they speak to me in Chinese.
Okay. They send you voice notes?
Yeah. Mom, if you're watching, do not send me a 3-minute voice note.
No, send him a voice
note. Ever again.
And send me a voice note too, but send it in Guoyu. All right, we're going to
take a break.
Another break. I've been your host, Wolu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Liu. Continue to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy, and we are joined on the line every week, once again, by Dennis Schröder. Dennis, I was down at practice. I didn't see you, man. You must have got out early in preparation for this interview, so we appreciate you. How you doing?
Feeling good. Yeah, just had practice. I didn't see you either. I think you got there a little late.
Yeah, you know what? They don't let the media in until you guys are absolutely done everything. First off, you had your 10,000th point yesterday. You crossed that mark. So congratulations. But also, I wanted to ask you, do you remember your first ever NBA basket?
Appreciate you. No, the first NBA basket, no, but first playoff basket. I remember against Indiana. But we searched it yesterday on Google, and I had my first basket against Dirk.
Oh,
Dallas 2013 in October 26th, I believe. So yeah, that's pretty special.
yeah. I couldn't find the video of it, but it just says in the box score that you got the assist from DeMarre Carroll, who's also a former Raptor. I don't know if you remember how DeMarre Carroll set you up.
That's my guy.
Yeah, that's your guy? All right.
No, I didn't. I mean, 2013, I couldn't shoot for nothing, so it probably was a layup or something like that.
It does say it was a layup. I got the play by you. You came in the game and almost immediately,
for sure,
bang.
Yeah. That's good. You got it out the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so the topic of the day around the NBA is keeping the ball for special occasions. Did you get the ball last night for your 10,000th?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, Giannis had a little trouble. I seen on social media.
Yeah. What are the
Yesterday.
unwritten rules around that? Like, are you guys aware when something like that happens that someone's going to grab the game ball? Is it on a teammate or assistant coach? We had Kyle Lowry here for years, and he was like obsessed with always making sure they got the game ball for everyone. What are kind of the unwritten rules for that?
I mean, I went to the locker room and I forgot. I mean, people came to me and was like, "Oh, it's 10,000 career point," and went on social media. I seen it, and then I asked the PR guys if they can give me the game ball, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna give it to you tomorrow. Don't worry." So, I mean, good organizations like Toronto is. They made sure that I'm getting the ball. Got it today, so that's pretty special.
Yeah, I do wonder what happened yesterday because when you beat one of Kareem's records, I feel like you should get the game ball, especially when you also get the win there too. But we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later.
Especially at home. I mean, Indiana just took it for a guy. I mean, I respect that too. Your first career points, but I mean, you lost first of all, and then somebody got close to 70 points. You got to get that.
Yeah. I also found out today there's 3 official game balls for every game.
But Giannis says there's only one that counts though. Like is Giannis telling the truth that by the end of the game you would know the feel of that day's game ball versus another ball? Because Giannis says they swapped it out and he could tell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the, ball in his hands probably 90% of the time. So he probably can tell.
Yeah, he shot 30 free throws, so that means he had the ball for at least 300 seconds. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about last night's game. You guys were able to beat the Hawks. Obviously, the tricky coverage every time you play the Hawks is Trae Young, right? Speaking of a guy with the ball in his hands a lot, he had 35. He had 17 assists as well. He had 5 turnovers. Like, he basically had the ball for like more than half the game. You were on him for a lot of those possessions. What was the specific ideas and coverages that you guys really focused in on pregame in terms of preparing for a player like Trae, who could obviously score and also pass from pretty much everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best, pick and roll players in this league. Can shoot it from all 3 levels. Can pass it, I mean, 16, 17 assists plus 35 points. I mean, that's really hard to get, so really, really efficient as well. But we did a great job, I think, in the fourth quarter and in the third quarter to get stops and limit him, of making those, I mean, 40 feet, 35 feet, I don't know how far he's shooting it from, but limiting those and just try to get him pass it a little bit more. And I think we won the game, and we're just gonna stick with that game plan probably for tomorrow.
In terms of that gameplay, I mean, maybe you're going to stick to that, to the Trae Young aspect. This is a rare time where you guys are playing the same team twice in a row. That's more of a playoff style. How was practice and the film session today? Did it feel a little bit more like what you've experienced in the playoffs, where you get to see a team a couple times?
Not really. I mean, we watched film, of course, watched good clips, and then the worst clips or the bad clips, just to get better. Then we got on the court, and shot a little bit, did treatment, and then we got out of there. So, I mean, we playing them again tomorrow. We just got to be ready with the same focus, same mentality, moving the ball, and make sure we, do it for 48 minutes like they did yesterday.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of covering Trae, so we saw Darko change up the rotations, right? Typically, you would play a lot of the first quarter, and then you come out, and then you close the second quarter. Same thing in the second half. Typically, you would play a lot of the first quarter or third quarter, rest for a while, and then come in to close for the fourth quarter. We saw in the second half when Trae Young came out the game early, because that's their substitution pattern. They like to take Trae Young out early in the first and in the third. Second half, you checked out when he checked out, and then you checked back into the game ahead of when you would typically play to go back against Trae Young. Take me through that process of, like, did Darko come to you with that idea? Did you have that idea? Did the coaching staff come with it? And how did you think that helped, limit at least Trae in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, first quarter, I mean, I played, I think, in the first 9 minutes, 8 or 9 minutes, and Trae was already out. And then I got on the bench, and then he got it a little going, and had like 14 or 17 points until I checked back in, and I told coaches maybe we, match minutes, and the assistant coach had the same idea. And but at the end of the day, I mean, it takes all five, to stop a player like that. And I think we just all did a great job of, being engaged in the second half. But I think it helps when you, match the minutes there with Trae and, make it a little uncomfortable for him.
Yeah. Can I also ask you a really technical question? Because I was watching the film back, and obviously the Hawks give Trae Young a lot of, like, ball screens, right? And it's a lot of pick and roll. And you obviously can't go under on a guy who's shooting from 40. So you got to get through and fight through that screen. Something I noticed you do, you do this technique where you spin around the screen and you try to get back yourself into the play, kind of navigating the screen like that. Is that always something that you've done? And when, I guess, do you pick and choose to use that specific spin move to get back yourself into the play, fighting through the screen?
Yeah, I mean, been doing it probably my whole career. Sometimes when the big, sets it a little higher, and I know it's tough for me to go over the screen, I can just, spin under him and meet, the ball handler on the other side. I mean, just some techniques to, try to be, try to, the ball handler, try to get into him, make sure that he don't have no space, because, I mean, when Trae Young has space and he just come off naked, then that's too easy for him. And that's what he always do. And, shooting threes, elite in floaters, elite in finishing as well. You've got to make it tough for him. So I always, try to find ways, watching a lot of film, and just try to find ways to be into his body.
When it comes to Trae versus some other heavy usage pick and roll guys like a Steph, like a Dame, is there anything that Trae Young does differently than those guys that makes him kind of unique to cover?
I mean, he got all the tricks to get to the free throw line as well. I mean, Steph is similar, but Trae, I mean, sometimes it's like you behind him, try to contest it, but then he just stops and shoots it. He got so many tricks to get to the free throw line, and you got to be really aware of him. Even putting your hand on him is really, dangerous, because he just finds a way to get you tangled up and get to the free throw line. So, very unique player.
All right, last question about last night's game. There was a play, I think in the third quarter, you were guarding against Bogdan Bogdanovic, and he kind of swung through trying to get some space, and I think he put the elbow into your head. I think that resulted in a flagrant. I think you made the free throws afterwards, but you fell over and then immediately popped up. And I thought you were about to do something, but then you actually just grabbed the ball instead. So take us through that play and sort of just like what was going through your mind in that moment, because I thought it was going to be a scrap.
No, he just still mad from the World Cup final. That's what it was. So when I got up, I was like, I understand, in this I put myself into his situation. So I was like, okay, I understand why he did that. So
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So what do you think this has happened to you a couple of times before? Like I know you got into it with OG at one point, PJ Tucker, Jeff T. This has happened for you a couple of times. Why do you think that is? Is it just like the level of trash talk, the level of intensity out there? Because it seems like there are like Draymond gets in the most of these scuffles, but you get in a few too.
Yeah, I mean, it's competitive spirit. At the end of the day, you want to win a game. You want to be competitive. You want to make sure that everybody knows on the court that, you can just think it's not sweet. So you just go out there when people are just doing certain things, what goes above the line, then you just gotta talk back and make sure they know it's not cool. So I didn't like it, but at the end of the day, like I said, I get it why you did it, and but that's I mean, I gotta say too, he's not that type of player who is who's dirty or doing stuff like that. And but at the end of the day, it happened, and I mean, we moved on very quickly.
People in Toronto, when the Raptors signed you, remembered the incident with you and OG. Is that something you guys talked about at all, or is that kind of it just assumed that it's in the past once you guys are on the same team? I remember you at the time, calling it a WWE move.
It was a WWE move, man.
We might have froze him.
I don't know. I know Dennis is going to have a sick answer to that. Yeah, for people who don't remember the context of that one, it was when the Raptors were playing in Tampa, and Dennis was, I think, in his first time around with the LA Lakers, and it was kind of out of nowhere. Like, I don't remember OG and Dennis ever having any beef, but the Raptors were slow out the gate. Surprise, surprise. They got down early, and I believe OG got out on the fast break, and Dennis, being a point guard, was kind of the first man back. And yeah, OG went out for the layup, and Dennis kind of caught him mid-air, or OG maybe caught Dennis mid-air. I forget which way it was, but regardless, OG kind of picked him up and dropped him, and it led to an ejection for OG. So yeah, Dennis, are you guys good now? You and OG good now after that very, very random WWE encounter you guys had?
Yeah, I mean, there was I had to, in Vegas, I think it was when I first signed my contract, I seen him, and it's like, man, what was that about? Because I never talked to him before that, and he was like, man, listen, it was competitive or whatever, and the emotions. And I mean, we good now. He's my teammate. I go every single night, to go to battle with him and to get W's. So yeah, we over it.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask you something, because you've been in like a decent amount of like, not fights, but just like, ejections or sort of face-to-face kind of things. And you're also European. And this idea got brought up by some other podcasters, former NBA players actually, in response to Draymond, because Draymond obviously is suspended again. He got into another fight, whatever. And they pointed out the idea that Draymond is like going after Europeans. You know Draymond. You played a lot in the Western Conference. I'm sure you played him in the playoffs last year. What do you think about this specific idea?
I mean, that's just I don't think that's very true. That he goes for Europeans. I think he's just a competitive guy who want to win. He didn't. I don't think he meant to hit him as well. I mean, he holded his jersey. and he just tried to, swing. But I mean, he did hit him very bad. So, but I mean, it wasn't intentional. I feel like I know, and I play cards with him, and I mean, he's a very, very cool guy. But when he gets on the court, he's just competitive as hell. So, I really respect that about Draymond, and hopefully, of course, he apologized to Nurkic, but hopefully, he can play again soon because, I mean, it's just a competitive spirit about it. Of course, he hit him very, very bad, but I mean, it wasn't intentional, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to hear that because I think people who are how they are on the court is how they are off the court. I it's different because I think for him as well, it's just too many incidents in a row. You know what I mean? Like it's just too many in a row. Getting suspended indefinitely is wild though. I've never seen a suspension like that. You know?
Me neither. I don't know. The NBA gonna do their job, but the one thing about Dylan Brooks, he's Canadian. I didn't know about it either. We had him in the playoffs last year and met him this summer in Germany, played against him, but met him afterwards. And he's another guy who's, kind of misunderstood, and he's really a good guy off the court. And I mean, that's people just, know them on the court and see what they do there, and they get judged by it. So, I mean, it is what it is. But.
It's tough to people get nicknames too. You know how Dylan he's calling himself Dylan the Villain, just like how you're Dennis the Menace. You know, like
I didn't give you that. I didn't give you that that nickname. I remember when I got to the Lakers, Bond always said the Menace. I remember that, but I mean. I never watched the movie either, so I don't really. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, you talk about the WWE stuff. Dylan Brooks leans into that. Like he dresses like a WWE character. He's does the big stare down before every game and stuff. Now he's leaning into it.
No, but I feel like for every team, like you need somebody with an edge. Otherwise, like what I mean,
For
like.
sure.
Otherwise, you just get people run you over too much. It's competitive sports. Like people are always going to try to push that envelope, and somebody's got to say like, no, that's the line. Obviously, you can't be punching people, but you got to know where you got to stand up for yourself, and you got to stand up for your teammates. Most importantly.
Yeah, and it was Serge here for a couple of years. James Johnson before that. James Johnson actually just signed with the Pacers today. He's back in the league.
Oh yeah,
yeah, maybe for something like that too. So I mean, you trace the history of the Raptors. There have been some here too.
Yeah, Dennis, is there
James Johnson?
Yeah,
James Johnson. Yeah,
I played with him in Atlanta. Really, really great guy. But you gotta be careful.
Yo, I gotta ask you. There was always a story he would tell where he could like do he would flip and kick the mesh. I don't know if you ever seen him do this before, but he was in Toronto twice, and he would tell the story where he could do a backflip and kick the mesh of the rim like he was Jackie Chan or something. I don't know if you've ever seen this from him.
Never seen it. Never seen it.
Okay, maybe we're just believing anything that NBA players tell us.
Yeah, he also, I mean, he trains MMA and like recently said he could beat like most of the UFC guys too. So
I think he's undefeated in his like actual fighting career.
Yeah,
right?
But like he's like coming at UFC guys. That's like you having a good pickup game and being like, yeah, I could take Dennis.
For the record, Dennis, I could not take you, man. I cannot take you.
Yeah, you sweet.
We gotta see, buddy. We gotta see. All right, you understand? I'm also a different person on the court. So, all right, Dennis, we run out of time, man. But I appreciate you. Next week we're gonna ask you about Jeff Teague, all right? Because I looked up the video and there's one time where Jeff Teague tried to push you or try to fight you or something. We're gonna get an answer out of this because I know there's something spicy there for sure.
Oh, Jeff, I just heard a podcast about him too, but I'm looking forward to that conversation next week.
Yeah. All right, Dennis, appreciate you, man. Okay.
All right.
That was Dennis Schröder, Raptors point guard. I think, as much as like, it's really interesting to talk about like super niche things like how he navigates a screen, I also love the NBA so much for what happens off the court, fighting over a game ball, fighting over the unwritten rules, fighting just because of fighting. And I like that human element of the sport too. And it was great to get Dennis's perspective. By the way, if you search Dennis Schroeder fights on YouTube,
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of hits. That's just saying. That's all.
What you know about
you
that,
talk
man?
about James Johnson's fight record. We're not too far away from Dennis Schroeder having a little thing on his Wikipedia page too.
Yeah.
You sweet, bro.
Nah, that's gonna be a clip. That's tough.
You a sweeter man.
Once, as both of you guys know,
different use of the term "sweet" with
Yeah.
those two.
as both of you guys know, I'm a different person on the court. We're gonna take another break.
3 points in 40 minutes.
Yeah, but how many fights? I'm your host, Will Lou, and you were listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou. I am joined for segment 3. We're going to go around the NBA with my two co-hosts, Blake Murphy, Alex Wong. Alex, you always take us around the league. So what's going on, man?
We're not going that much around, man. I think
Okay.
we're just going to spend this whole segment about Giannis's game ball.
Oh, I can't wait. We're not going
and-
to talk about Grady Dick getting the GQ interview?
Oh, yeah.
The little
Grady Dick,
feature?
assigned to the Raptors 905 today
Yeah,
is, in GQ. No, I had a chance to do a quick Q&A with him.
I remember. It was
Couple
I
weeks
was
ago.
interviewing Garrett Temple. You were waiting for Garrett Dick. Or
Garrett?
Grady Dick.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Just had a chance to catch up with
What was your
Grady.
favorite answer he gave you?
The night before the interview, we were out, me and you,
Yes.
with Liban Osman
and
um,
Jerome. Black
and
Dragon.
Jerome, shout out to Black Dragon Roll, having skewers at Mainlander's favorite spot.
Yep.
And Liban, being born in, I believe, 1999, was teaching me just Toronto slang.
Yeah.
You guys were all teaching me Toronto slang. So I
Yeah.
learned about sweeter mans,
Mhm.
amongst other things. And so I ended up just asking Grady about it.
Yeah. The next morning. Literally the following morning.
Yeah, I think Grady thought I said sweater mans. I think that's why he gave the answer that he gave. But
What was the answer?
I forgot. Anyways,
All
go
right.
read it at GQ.
All
Yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo last night scored 64 points
Mhm.
in a blowout win over the Pacers, in-season tournament revenge game for the Milwaukee Bucks. They were playing at home. And yeah, all kinds of stuff happened after the game. He incorrectly thought the Pacers had run away with the official game ball because you guys had clarified that there's 3 different balls.
Well, that's actually the official, because we were talking about this at practice, and shouts to Phil on Raptors PR. Phil came in and we were talking about it, and he joined the conversation. He's like, did you guys know there's actually 3 official game balls? Typically, obviously, you would just use the one, but like, I don't know, let's say something happens, they have a backup, and there's a backup
Yeah.
for the backup. So Giannis could have conceivably gotten maybe not the official game ball, like the secondary backup game ball. I don't know. This is the
Right.
most anyone's talked about game balls.
So let's take it through the sequence, and I'll stop and get your thoughts on this. So, like,
All right.
Giannis runs to the tunnel. There's some, like, footage in the back of, some of the Pacers shouting back and forth. I think one of them, you could hear them being like, yeah, no, we're going to keep the ball. And Giannis is, like, throwing a whole fit. I think a security guy is trying to hold Giannis back. Thanasis is there, like, ready to throw hands.
Of course,
Even
it's
before
there.
we know all of this other information that eventually comes out, which I'll share, like, what did you guys make of just Giannis wanting this game ball this much?
Yeah, I mean, Dennis's point that they're the home team resonated with me. Like, I hadn't considered that necessarily. That, like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that whoever the home team is in charge of the game balls, and they're going to clear the court or whatever, and they have first dibs. If you won and you're the home team, you have first dibs. So I get the being upset. I think probably a better way to get the ball would have been to just, like, grab a Pacers assistant or Tyrese Halliburton or whatever and just be like, hey, can I get that ball back? Like, I just scored 64. But that game, I went back and watched some of it because I was fascinated when I got home of what does 64 points when it's 32 free throws look like. And it's exactly what it sounds like, by the way. You're just watch a whole game of free throws.
Yeah,
That's
first
it.
first guy.
That game must have been like a Yankees-Red Sox game. That must have been like 4 hours of Giannis taking 32 free throws.
Era
Jesus
Red
Christ,
Sox
man.
Yankees. But anyway, this game was pretty heated before that.
Oh, yeah.
So now that you know everything that trickles out after, like, I can kind of see, having watched the game back now and see how chippy it was. And, there was a moment late in the game where Thanasis tried to jump off the bench and, like, grab Jay Crowder and was like, Jay, hold me back.
Yeah,
hold
to
me
be
back.
clear,
Come here and hold me back.
If you watch the tape, Thanasis hooks his teammate, Jay Crowder, and then proceeds to tell Jay Crowder to hold him back.
Right,
Yeah.
man.
You know what, Thanasis? Keep your NBA roster spot. The entertainment value is immense. Anyways, so the Pacers.
That's basically what it was.
Pacers
Yeah,
wanted
cartoon character.
Pacers wanted the ball for Blake. You're gonna have to help me here with this player's name.
Oscar Shibwe.
There we go.
There we go.
Oscar.
Fort Wayne or I guess they're the Indiana Mad Ants now. I'm so mad when G League teams change their name from like the cool, this is such a G League.
They were all Mad Ants last night after the
Mad
game.
Ants, the Oscar Shibwe Mad Ants jersey is gonna go hard.
Oh, that would hit different. So they wanted the ball for this rookie who scored his first career point
on
in
splitting
this game.
a pair of free throws at
Yeah,
the free throw line.
he had a Jakob. He split a pair of free throws, and this was only ever an issue because my man, the rookie, actually scored against the Lakers in the in-season tournament finals. But because stats don't count in the finals, this was his first career point.
Well, I mean, it'd be pretty incredible if they took the game ball away from LeBron for winning.
I
the
mean, Adam
in-season
Silver wouldn't even
tournament.
let kids on the court after the game.
It's like, oh, sorry, I know you guys won the in-season tournament. I know this is the first ever. I know that you won in-season tournament MVP, but no, we're gonna need it for Oscar, like for a free throw in the fourth quarter.
Do you think though, like at this point, and I'm not saying obviously you couldn't get the game ball for that, but like LeBron has done so many things. Like at the court that's at the James family compound, are the racks of basketballs that they're playing with just filled with like game balls and memorabilia balls?
Yeah.
And LeBron has no idea which one is from which game because he's done like 400 of these things.
Well, I also think that, like, yeah, so for example, for LeBron, he probably has like a professional who comes around every single day to just keep those things inflated more than anything else, because I mean, he's got like so many records, including literally the points record. But like, it has to be worth an incredible amount of money. Like, if I could get a game ball like Kyle Lowry style, I would, just because it's so much money. Like, for example, so obviously Kyle is so well known in Toronto for doing that. He got the game ball, for example, for very significant moments, like Kawhi's shot. He got the game ball. The whole building, 20,000 people, was in absolute pandemonium. Joel Embiid is in tears walking through the tunnel. We're jumping up and down in Media Row, and the only guy who stays sane in the whole moment is Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry goes to get that game ball. Maybe it was me in that commercial.
That dude's sweet too, man.
No,
He's sweet.
He's saccharine. Trying to play the boy like he's saccharine. But like he got the ball in that moment. He got the ball after the Raptors won the championship in 2019. Kyle, a surge went to jump and he had to grab the rim. Kyle actually grabbed the ball because the Warriors, I think, chucked the other way.
Of course, Surge kills me.
Anyway, but like, he does that, but he also does even small things. Like, I remember when Sergio Scariolo, as an assistant coach, got his first win. Kyle made sure to get the game ball for him there too.
True leader, man.
But it's got to be worth a ton of money. Like, do you think Kyle was like, "Yo, give me the money"?
Why
for this?
are you so financial? What are you, Darren Rovell, right now?
I mean, it's not worth a ton of money if you're like Oscar Shibwe or Sergio Scariolo.
Okay.
It's worth a lot of money if it's like a LeBron, I set the points record ball or something like that. But no, I think you would do that out of the goodness of your heart because it's mostly sentimental value. Like, sure, maybe there's a like dinner's on me or something like that. But something you said there gets to something else in that the way the NBA tracks these things, Sergio Scariolo has 0 wins as an NBA head coach. That doesn't count. Like, if you remember the year Steve Kerr was out with back issues and Luke Walton was like 9-0 or whatever, those didn't count for Luke Walton's record. Those are Steve Kerr wins because he's that coach.
NBA math is so weird.
I know. And this is like such a weird thing. I saw someone make the point yesterday of like, well, in season, how can you raise a banner for an in-season tournament if the stats don't count? First of all, the stats count for everything except for the finals, but like playoff stats don't count toward your like LeBron's record points or record minutes or anything like that. Yeah, it's a separate thing. You raise a banner for the championship; those stats don't count.
Yeah, they need to fix that. By the way,
they do. I think what they should do is take the in-season tournament final and the play-in games and just like make them an other category on Basketball Reference or NBA.com or whatever.
No, the stats need to be somewhere. Derek Brandale submitted into my ear that Kyle is the game ball Mamba. So,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. But my point is, it's like when he takes the game ball after Kawhi's shot. Kawhi's probably like, "Yo, man, thanks for getting the ball."
He's like, "Yo, I'm still leaving in 6 weeks. Two more series."
It's fine. It's fine, actually. He gave us.
Yeah, we're gonna have a
He actually said "Zaijian." He said goodbye. But what? Like, you don't think Kyle was like, "All right, man, you want this game? You want this ball from your historic moment, Game 7?
Yeah.
2 racks.
Which ball? No, man.
No? All right.
Which ball?
I would.
Why'd you turn into Darren Rovell in the last 5 minutes? Which ball would you guys rather have, the Kawhi shot or the championship, Game 6? That's a tough one.
That is a really tough one.
That's a tough
great
one.
question. Probably the Kawhi shot.
I'm
though.
taking Kawhi shot too.
It's cooler.
Yeah.
What about you, Blake?
Yeah, I mean,
Kawhi
it has more of a moment, right? Like
Yeah.
you can attach that to something.
Yeah.
Game 6 of the final. I mean, it would be cool to have the game ball still, but like
Oh yeah.
the shot, you could just, I don't know, how often would you just like grab it and like in your house like replay?
I think
it?
Will would just.
Like,
I think
very careful not to put your fingertips
Yeah.
on the actual,
Yeah.
authentication.
I
or
think
signature
Honestly,
or
that should
whatever.
go into a museum. Those should go into like
Yeah.
like some sort of Canadian sporting museum. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Maybe
no,
the
no,
Naismith Hall of Fame actually. As well.
Anyway, so now continuing on in this timeline,
Yeah.
Giannis runs back out because he doesn't have the ball now that he's gone to the back. And Lloyd Pierce, assistant on the Pacers,
Lloyd Banks,
and Tyrese Halliburton,
he's on fire.
and some of the lip readers online.
Yeah.
Giannis goes to Tyrese Halliburton, starts yelling at both of them. And Dame Lillard is there too. Like they're all having a post-game conversation. Chris Middleton's there.
No, but Damon, everyone else is chilling.
Chilling.
Everyone
Giannis
is
comes. He's like Avon Barksdale season 3. He's like pointing at Tyrese. And the lip readers are saying he told Tyrese, you got to go get the ball.
Yeah.
Like he was telling Tyrese Halliburton to go get the ball.
Uh-huh.
And then after all this, they do their post-game scrum, and Rick Carlisle of the Pacers reveals that they didn't actually have the official game ball. And they took the reserve ball, and there's video footage that the actual game ball was already handed to a security guard right after the game.
Uh-huh.
So basically, like, they threw a fuss about nothing, even though both teams were being, well, the Pacers were being petty. The Pacers were being petty. And then they sent out a tweet about the rookie, Oscar.
Oscar Sheboy.
Yeah, Sheboy.
You know what this reminds me of? I think obviously like we do a 2-hour show every day about this team, and we watch so much of our time is spent
5
watching
days a
basketball,
week.
playing basketball, writing about basketball, talking about basketball, interviewing players, researching, blah
watching
blah blah.
tape.
Right? Just so much basketball, and at the end of the day, it's a
practice.
children's game, and these are grown 30-year-old. In the cases of Giannis, like pretty much halfway to a billionaire, and it's still just them playing this silly game. Like it was just the whole thing is so silly. Like this is what would happen in a grade 3 playground.
Boom.
Okay. Can I ask you guys a question that maybe it informs why the Pacers were the way they were?
Sure.
Yes.
So there's 6 minutes left in this game.
Mhm.
The Bucks are up by 16.
Mhm.
Giannis scored 17 of his points in the last 6 minutes, including getting subbed back in with 2 minutes left in a 20-point game. Do you think that made the Pacers extra petty?
No, because the Pacers are really good at making comebacks. They have. So there was a game the first time.
Oh,
so the
sorry,
Pacers,
it was down to a 10-point game when he
Yeah.
came back in with 2 minutes left.
here's the thing: the Pacers have already played the Bucks 3 times already this season. First time they played each other, Adrian Griffin got himself ejected from the game, kind of as a motivational. Like sometimes with the referees, the coaches are like, "Let me get myself ejected. Let's see if my team will respond to this." Right. So Joe Prunty had to go as out coaching that team.
Man.
Shouts to Joe Prunty. He's been there forever. I think he coached Kareem as well. But
he's sweet.
he coached Lou Alcindor actually. That's what happened. But like that game, Giannis had like 50 plus, and the Pacers ended up making a comeback and winning the game. Then they play each other in the in-season tournament, I believe semifinals, and they obviously knocked them out of that one. Another kind of frustrating game. And so the third time around, if I'm Adrian Griffin, I'm not taking Giannis out until the game's over. Like I need to make sure I actually get this win over with. So if that means Giannis is going to put up some extra points, if he's going to go to the foul line more, so be it.
Yeah, and I think regardless of the game situation, like the other team, in this case the Pacers, they're going to be hurt. Like when someone puts up 64 on you, it's going to hurt, right?
Especially
Like-
on free throws mostly.
Yeah, and it's an ego
Yeah.
thing, right? Like you let this guy just kind of dominate you in that way. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like Giannis just cared about this game ball like 20% too much for me.
200% more.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. The Bucks are just weird stories coming out of Milwaukee, like Bobby Portis challenging Adrian Griffin.
Yeah.
This, like, they just don't seem very like locked in on things right now.
Well, the funniest part too is how quickly do you think Dame made the phone call to Chris Haynes?
Why are they always in the same building, by the way? Oh, anyways.
Dame's like, you wouldn't believe what happened today.
Check the tape in May, but the Bucks got second round exit written all over them to me right now.
Oh,
And
I
this-
can't wait for the fallout after that
And
one.
this
too.
counts. This counts towards that.
64 points was your championship. That's what it's going to feel like after.
Anyways, and you
Yeah.
mentioned this, Blake, to Dennis Schroeder, is that Giannis was asked. He talked about the ball after the game, and he said that he couldn't really say for sure if it was the official game ball because it didn't feel like the game ball from the game, and that's where he kind of lost me.
Yeah, I mean Dennis was kind of shot it down right away. of like look, I get it. Like, you know, the captains decide on the ball before the game based on, you know, how does it feel? You know, where's the grip? How worn down is this ball? How new or how old is it? But yeah, the idea that in the heat of the moment when you're really, really mad, someone hands you a ball and you're like, that's not it. That's not it. Take it back.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
But of all people who would know which ball was the game ball, it'd be Giannis. Because again, if he shot the
he spent 32 moments just looking at it like this.
And you know Giannis takes 25 seconds to shoot every free throw. It's like the freaking shot clock violation every time he shoots it, man.
This is a guy who put up a 50 burger in like a championship clinching game.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has the game ball from that.
Yeah.
So
maybe he just really dislikes Michael Redd and was like, get him out of the Bucks record books. That 57-point game has to go down. That's
I get. Trust me, 64 points is incredible. Franchise record, all this stuff, whatever we want to talk about.
Record for most points by a combined pair of brothers in a game, as you pointed out after the game.
But like,
that should be Thanasis' job, just to get Giannis' game balls.
No, but like, Giannis has accomplished way bigger things than this for him to care this much.
Yeah,
it's just not like, this is like Ricky Davis behavior to me.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, Giannis does have a streak of that corniness. Like, if we're gonna be completely 100% honest about it,
I'm not gonna turn on Giannis because
no,
I feel
I'm not
like
turning on Giannis.
He's still coming.
Accept that he's corny.
He's coming, bro. He's coming. When Union Station is done, 2027.
All right. You know what? Antetokounmpo's coming.
All three.
The NASA.
I mean, Alex has already been here.
Yeah,
905 legend, Alex Antetokounmpo.
Right.
Yeah, so that's about it. Do the Bucks and Pacers play again, or is that it for them?
I mean, how many times can you play the same team in a month?
And aren't the Bucks
they
just
play back to back? I think in January.
Aren't they the same team? They just neither of them are good at defense. They just try to outscore you.
They're very different teams, but
but
like,
don't they try to win the same way? Like, the Bucks are not a good defensive team, right?
Nah. Well, they flipped it back to like what they did before. Because again, they just like told Edger Griffin, like, you're a rookie, buddy. go sit over there.
By the way, Indiana's start to the 2024 calendar year might be when the shine comes off of the nice Pacer story. So they start Milwaukee, January 1st to January 3rd, then have the Hawks, then have Celtics.
Wow.
So a lot of in-season tournament rematches there, but also like, we'll get to know a little bit about this Pacers team because the Bucks will obviously be hungry in those two to kind of get a little revenge there. The Celtics probably want to test their defense a little better this time, and having Porzingis there, like, as much as regular season meetings can matter, I think that stretch of 5 games is that's a tough first 8 days to the calendar year.
Damn, it seems like Indiana should get a big wing that could maybe help them defend Giannis next time.
Man, you know where Bobby sits, man. Go talk to him.
Yeah, we do know where he sits.
Yeah, we're going to have Andy Lou join us in the final segment, so we're saving the Draymond suspension for
I have one last Giannis thing for you.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the Pacers signing James Johnson today is a direct response to
it was
what
the
happened
Pacers
yesterday?
who signed him?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Like, they watched that go down, and they were like, we've got a roster spot. We got to use it on James Johnson.
I think what they watched went down was on court, and they realized they need someone who might just play defense. Yeah.
I now need garbage time where James Johnson is on the court as Thanasis is on the court. First off, Thanasis, on a per minute basis, in terms of how much I enjoy a player, his efficiency of like great entertainment to like minutes played ratio is through the roof. He's like the Jose Calderon assist to turnover ratio.
Man,
like,
Blake and I were in the media
amazing.
room yesterday, just tracking the box score because Giannis was coming down the stretch here. Last 30 seconds, Giannis checks in. Thanasis checks in -9 in 1 minute.
That's why they had to put Giannis back in.
Yo, what? How's that possible?
Like, this man defying physics, man. How you go -9 in 1 minute? The shot clock is 24 seconds.
So
not even
he came in at 3:24.
Yeah.
They were up 19. Ben Shepherd makes a 3.
Yeah.
Oscar Tshiebwe gets a free throw.
Nice.
Ben Shepherd pulls up a mid-ranger, then hits another 3. So this is almost just Ben Shepherd doing this. He has 8 of the 9 points, and then the Bucks have to call a timeout and put Giannis back in the game.
Yeah. Yo.
They got shepherd's pie over there.
So they're telling me that they had 5 possessions or 4 possessions
and got
in
9
that
points.
1 minute?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's 7 seconds. Anybody turns into 7 seconds or less suns.
Ben Shepherd went Tracy McGrady against the Nassus.
He heated up that shepherd's pie real quick. Pistons update.
Yeah.
Pistons, I believe it was Dave Dufour who mentioned this on Twitter, that The Pistons. Draymond has as many suspensions this year as the Pistons have wins. Pistons fell to 2.
Who's the real bad boy?
Oh boy. Pistons fell to 2-22 yesterday, losing hard to the Sixers. And for those that have been following, they're sponsored by Wingstop, so they've been slowly moving the Wingstop logo away from the Pistons logo on the finals graphic. Last night it moved to the bottom right corner.
Yo, is there like a clause in their sponsorship contract that allows them to stop advertising Wingstop in this way? Like, I don't want to be associated with this.
So
I feel so bad for them, man.
Blake came up with another wrinkle, as we were talking about yesterday, that the Pistons might potentially be breaking the all-time, like across 2 seasons, losing streak record, because Toronto will be visiting Detroit on December 30th. Blake, what are the Raptors doing the night before?
Yeah, the Raptors have a back-to-back, Boston and Detroit. So Detroit potentially going for this historic losing streak against the Raptors on the second night of a back-to-back. And if the Raptors can pull that out, we look at the Pistons schedule, we look at the Spurs schedule. There's a possibility that when those 2 teams meet on January 10th, first of all, those 2 and the Wizards go this entire time not beating anyone until 2 of them meet again. But it could potentially be 2, and this is a couple weeks away, so it's probably not going to happen.
I mean, it would
be 2 30-plus game losing streaks against each other. Like, both of those teams would have broken the losing streak record ahead of that matchup.
It's been so long. We've had Ben Golliver on twice. The Wizards have moved now, apparently. They're moving to Virginia. It's getting kind of wild. But anyways, this is the fear in the back of every Raptors fan's head right now. It should be a fear for you. It's December 30th. Again, the schedule before that for the Pistons: Philly, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Utah, Brooklyn, Boston. They could beat Utah.
I think,
they could beat Brooklyn in one of those
Portland
games.
plays Utah tonight, and Utah's on the second night of a back-to-back. It's the first time all season Portland's been a favorite in a game.
Yeah.
That's where Utah's at.
Yo, the NBA going the Premier League route, man. There's just 3 teams every year that just don't get any points. Shouts to Everton. Not this year, though.
Just 10 Evertons.
Not this year. Don't play the
Who's
clip.
getting relegated this year?
Not Everton this time. They got.
Is that Derek's team? Is that
Sean
why you
Dyche?
use it? Okay.
That's why. Yeah, I know he's scrambling for that.
That's why we call
Gerard.
That's why we
clip.
That's why we call him Chang.
We're gonna take this break. I'm your host, Will, who you've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio. When we come back, let's talk about Draymond Green and what's going on with the Warriors. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Lou, joined by my co-host, Blake Murphy, Alex Wong. Sorry, this is what the intro music made me kind of want to do. What's going on, guys? We're going to get Andy Lou on the line.
Yeah, we're going to go.
Wake up, Andy.
We're going to go to San Fran, but before we do that, a little news that we got during the break.
Yeah.
A friend of the show, Martin Rickman of Dime, is down in Mexico.
Yeah, pan the camera to me, please, as Blake talks. Thank you.
And he sent a picture of he's like at a pool bar in Mexico, and we're on. We're on TV. We are the #1 basketball show in Canada and Mexico. I'm now going to claim with no
please
evidence
pan
to
the
back that
camera
up.
to me.
Hola.
Anybody?
Alex is desperate to get this "It Is Your Birthday" sign up for Martin Rickman.
Shout out. Okay, I guess not.
Nobody is listening.
Okay,
I guess they're still trying to get Andy on.
All right, one thing at a time.
Yeah, they're trying to get Andy on. By the way,
shout out. Okay, I'm not even on. You can't even read my lips. Never mind. I was gonna do a lip reading. What is going on?
Superimposed.
Anytime we try to get a Zoom and 3 people on, a ghost appears in this studio.
Don't turn that off. Run that back. That should be that should be the shot for the show all the time.
All right.
Like a ghost Alex.
As we got Andy Lou, aka Soju Otani on. Quick on air, show planning for tomorrow.
Got you.
Pascal, let's talk about Pascal extension talks tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Let's talk about The Ringer put out their quarterly awards. I know we did some fake awards last week. Let's go through the real awards.
Okay.
All right.
And you guys want anyone else on? Louis Aspin, maybe? No?
I don't know. It's a Friday. We can kick it around.
Negotiating live on air, man. We can't do this off the air. Yeah,
Joining us now is Andy Lou, the famous Andy Lou, Bay Area's finest, Soju Otani from the Light Years podcast. Andy, what's good, man? Are you also out indefinitely like Draymond?
Good riddance. I'm kidding, but thank you. Thanks for having me on, gentlemen. I am not out indefinitely, although I should be maybe as a Warriors fan, but sometimes I feel like I complain being a Warriors fan and people don't like that. So maybe I won't do it.
No.
But we are cooked. We are cooked.
Yo, I keep backing your team because these guys always ask me like, "Yo, are the Warriors going to be okay? Do you still believe in them?"
You're like the other day,
over.
The over and like they're the team I'm most confident will crack the top 6 in the West still.
It's because I believe in Steph Curry. All right, I don't think it's a bad bet to make necessarily, but I've also seen so many Warriors games where you guys are in the lead, up 10, up 20, and then you guys just do the dumbest things possible from top down. And then you guys end up choking the game. Like, Andy, can you give us like what's wrong with the Warriors, man? What's wrong with y'all? Like, you guys just beat yourselves half the time.
You ever seen like what's your favorite heist movie? You guys ever seen like some really good
Ocean's 11?
Ocean's is great, right? Ocean's is great, like Italian Job.
Sure,
the Perfect Score starring Darius Miles, which we talked about the other day on the show.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that is OG. So the Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, 3 of the best heist thieves I've ever seen in my life. They are stealing money from the Warriors right now. Combine those salaries together, I think they're at about $100 million.
Oh man!
And they are giving value of nothing to that amount.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about this team. That's why they're playing very poorly. They're actually a really good basketball team. If, and hypothetically, if I sound like a Rockets fan or a Cavs fan that used to say that when they played the Warriors all the time, if those guys actually played to the maybe 78th percentile of who they are, instead, I think you would say Andrew Wiggins is playing to about the floor level option of who he is, right? Like in baseball, he'd be probably like a -1 WAR player, maybe -2. And Klay Thompson is maybe like giving 0 value, so like nothing super good, but like he's not terrible, so he's still solid. And then Draymond Green, who's actually been really good, but doesn't make it through any of the games. He's played maybe half the games of the season, and he's probably never gonna wear a Warriors jersey again. So those are your 3 guys stealing money.
No, that's why I want to go back to the Draymond thing. For people that don't know, Draymond has been suspended indefinitely. He's got to meet certain conditions, talk to the league.
I've never seen a league put a grown adult into timeout. That's what they did. They
Ja
literally
Morant?
put him in timeout.
It just happened with
Ja
Ja Morant.
Morant.
It's like currently happening.
Yeah.
But like even then they gave him a timeline of like
It
here's
was
25
indefinite
games.
first though.
It was?
And
Okay.
then it was
Yeah.
because I think it was 8 first, and then when he did it again, it was indefinite. So there is precedent, which I'm a little surprised the union hasn't been like a little harder pushing back on of like you can't do
Well, the
that.
funniest thing, the head of the union is Andre Iguodala, his former teammate. That might be the only Warrior holding him accountable right now, man.
But Andy, man, like I've seen even yourself, like a lot of Warriors fans, like even through the last like 12 to 18 months, like all of Draymond's antics and suspensions and things like that. I mean, I see a lot of people coming to his defense. It seems like there's less Warriors fans coming to his defense at this point. Is that correct?
Are there any Warriors fans coming to his defense? Yeah, you're right. It's tiresome. I actually think last year the Sabonis stuff was still pretty. I think Warriors fans still had us. I mean, I did. I was like, dude, screw Sabonis, right? Like this guy. I mean, who is this guy? All right, he's kind of dirty. He does weird stuff. The Warriors don't really respect him.
Stuff. Please elaborate.
Nah, what kind of defenses he does weird stuff? So I stomped on his chest.
Check out the Light
Hair
Years
makes
podcast.
no sense. Hair makes no sense. Just come on, man. David Lee's just a taller version of David Lee. Whatever. So,
Yeah.
I thought guys still had his back. I think a lot of fans or players even had Draymond's back, even with the Rudy Gobert stuff. I don't think NBA players necessarily love Sabonis or Rudy Gobert. Definitely not Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
But this one, I think when you've done it multiple times, he knocked Jordan Poole out, which you can argue whether Jordan Poole deserved it. I don't think anybody deserves to get knocked out cold like that. Jordan Poole wasn't a great teammate last year, but you throw all that on top of the stuff that we've seen from 2015 onwards, which I always thought was like, yeah, let's go. I love it But the guy's 32, man. He's married. He's got kids. He's a grown adult, and he's acting like a 22-year-old that he just figured out how to start drinking or something. What are we doing here, right? Like he turns around. I actually believe him that he tried to flop, though he doesn't admit he tried to flop, which is weird, typical. But he tries to flop, and then he waves his arm around, which is classic Draymond, like when he used to wave his legs around and kicking Steven Adams in the groin. So he does that. I believe him that he accidentally hits Nurkic, but then it's like, you've been suspended so often, you've been yelled at by the team and the league so often. Why would you still do it? And honestly, I think he deserves it. I think the Warriors went to the commissioner's office and said, yeah, we don't mind if you just you just said, hey, just suspend him indefinitely. I think the Warriors were part of it. It's not a conspiracy. I think they were part of it. I think the league is tired of him. I think the players are tired of him. I think they were tired of him last year. And I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, I truly wouldn't be surprised if he's not going to be in a Warriors uniform ever again.
Damn.
Ever again?
I mean, he does cross the line way too often. Like, okay, so what does that leave the Warriors then? Because you guys are already like pretty short with the roster as is. I mean, you guys have had young guys contribute. You know, shouts to Pods. I don't know what you guys been loving from Brandon Pajemski.
Shouldn't be your third best player though.
He was looking pretty good last
exactly.
night too. But like,
exactly,
you guys have young guys contributing. You guys, at least on paper, have like still lots of productive core pieces. Most importantly, Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. Like, can't just be throwing away a prime season of Steph Curry, but you guys seem like you're about to throw away another prime Steph season.
They are, and it is. I've accepted that. Sadly, this team would probably be maybe 6 or 7 games over. Like, they'd probably be the Lakers record if Wiggins and Clay and Draymond were just normal players. They because you're right. Moses Moody has been very good. Brandon Pajemski has been amazing, which I mean, I was not bought in on. I mean, look at him, but he's amazing. And then Kuminga's not been super amazing, but he's been good. He's been good enough. But where does that? Your question? Where does that leave the Warriors? I kind of think of it this way: they don't have anyone to replace Draymond, but they drafted Trace Jackson Davis, who's like a 23-year-old rookie, which is hilarious. But he's probably going to play. Like, he's probably has a chance to do kind of what Draymond is, which is an undersized.
All right.
And guard all positions guy. And then Pajemski and Moody are going to take over the minutes that Clay's going to take over, or Clay's not going to play as much because of those two guys. And then Kuminga has a chance to take Wiggins minutes. Those guys were benched last game.
Yeah.
During the Suns games. Those guys were Wiggins and Clay were benched because how awful they are. And honestly, it should have been on 10 games ago. But I think that's where the Warriors are at. And that's what, a 10 seed, maybe? Like, maybe they'll end up in the play. Like, remember that year that they lost to the Grizzlies in the play-in round? Like, this is kind of what that is right now.
Damn, Warriors and Raptors are kind of in the same spot for this season right now, man.
Except 4 titles to lean back on instead of 1. But it's still better than 0.
Hey, Andy, on to the coach too. Why do you keep calling Steve Kerr Sleepy Steve? What's the story behind that?
I've had the team reach out. They're not happy about that one. But, whatever. I enjoy it. I think it's great. Maybe not condoning, Trump when I do that. Trump calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. But that is where I got it from.
All right, we've
has had a terrible game.
Did we lose Andy?
Oh, I thought.
You're back. No, I can hear you. Explain. Yeah.
Steve has had a terrible season coaching the team. He was terrible in FIBA. So for your fans, I'm sure you watched all the FIBA games. I think they got smacked by Team Canada, but actually before that, they were terrible. It just went too small. Really, no coaching, no urgency, no adjustments. And he's really done the same thing with these Warriors. He's benched the younger guys when they've played well, specifically Moses Moody. He basically got his behind handed to him by media, by the players, by everyone. And he came out and apologized by saying, like, hey, I should have played Moses Moody. Yeah, obviously, guy. What are you doing here? He's been awful managing the veterans, giving them way too much leeway. He's made 0 adjustments. I think this is whatever. I think all that is micro stuff. Macro level, I think he's done. I think this is his last season as a Warriors head coach. I think he's burnt out. It shows in the way he's coaching this team. He's a great coach. He's won a lot of championships. He's brought a great system over, and that's helped this team win that first championship. But yeah, I think he's, enjoy ESPN with Bob Myers. I don't think Charles Barkley was lying when he said, you're about to see some of your buddies on the stage. Yeah. Steve Kerr is going to be enjoying the sidelines. Very less stressful, calling games. Maybe he can call some of the Kuminga Moody games next year. I think he's done.
No, the Warriors are a hilarious franchise because all your ex-coaches just end up going to call Warriors games. That's what happened with Mark Jackson, was always calling Warriors games, man.
But Andy, though, like,
man down as Steph Curry hits his 10th three of the night.
It's like the opposite of the Shohei clause, where it's like, hey, if you let this front office person go, I can opt out. It's the opposite. Steph and Draymond and Clay are just like, if you don't let these people go on like a 3-year cycle, we're out.
Yeah, at least Andy.
Yeah.
Neither of us got Otani, so we have that as well, brother.
Oh,
We have to talk about. I'm happy to. Actually, I'm not happy to talk about it, but I will talk about it. I think it hurts more for me, but actually, I don't know because I don't know the how Toronto fans are feeling about it. But I think Steph wants Steve back. I think he wants him back. I think Steph pined for Draymond to get that extension. I think Steph wants Clay back, which to me, I mean, that's who Steph is, right? He's super loyal.
Mhm.
He's never going to go anywhere else. He's going to retire as a Warrior. But I think in this particular case, it's going to bite him in the behind. But again, it's he's not going to be the LeBron type. He's not going to be the KD type. Like he doesn't like use a franchise and then after he's done with them, run off to another place to find a superstar. Like, that's not who he is. And they end up with the same amount of championships. Steph has 4, LeBron has 4, and KD has 0 without Steph, right? So like you can argue that their legacies are their legacies. I'd argue that Steph's is a little bit more impactful, but I think Steph has a worse chance of succeeding than those other 2 guys. And I compare those 3 guys because they're the faces of the NBA, right, for the past decade plus.
Yeah, but it's kind of sad to think, like you mentioned, uncertainty about Draymond's future. Clay's going to free agency. Maybe Kerr leaves after this year. Like, is there a chance, like, Steph stays with the Warriors and it's kind of like Kobe's last few seasons with the Lakers? Like, they're just not in contention.
Yeah, I think Dirk is the one that makes sense. Is the one that I think about. I think Dirk. Warriors fans really wanted it to be like Duncan. They're similar. And Manu and Parker and then Kawhi came in and kind of got them that championship, that 5th one. If I have that right, I think the 5th one.
Yeah.
So I think Warriors fans really wanted that, and maybe you can argue that the 4th one was similar to that, but they didn't really. I mean, you can argue maybe Wiggins was that version of Kawhi, but it's certainly not going to be extended any longer than this, which is sad. So it reminds me of Dirk, where Dirk was happy being a Mav. Took a couple pay cuts. They put like some decent teams around them, but it was never serious. So I think that's what this Warriors team is going to be, right? Like they're going to win 44 games this season again, maybe 42. They'll sneak into the play-in. They'll do that again next year. But from what I'm seeing, unless they trade for Pascal Siakam, and who knows, that might not even work. Pascal might not even help them that much. But unless they trade for something like that, then yeah, I mean, we're looking at a pretty rough last couple years for Steph.
Yeah, we did that show last year where we tried to work out trades, and you guys were just hard no on getting rid of Kuminga at any cost, which I understand, honestly. He is, like, definitely, in terms of upside, your highest upside prospect. But, the comparison to Dirk is interesting because I remember around that time when Dirk was heading towards the end, the Warriors were kind of like, hey, Dirk, you want to join? You want to come play with the Warriors? You want to come get another ring? Teams are going to do that for Steph Curry now. Teams are going to be coming and just being like, hey, Steph, like, you're still great. Get another ring.
If his
add to your
hometown
championship.
Hornets get good in time.
Well,
right.
Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that one because Steph's, criminal rap sheet is actually still intact.
Oh, boy.
That's what it qualifies to play for the Hornets. But, yeah, I mean, is there a team that it would break your heart to see Steph Curry, like, jump ship
Lakers.
for?
Oh, that's easy. Yeah, I just watched the generational Japanese legend go to the team that my baseball team loses to every single year. This would be a lot worse because Shohei didn't do anything for me outside of just being Asian, and I'm Asian.
Yeah,
so
let's go.
That's cool. Like that's cool, but yeah, I mean, I'm Chinese. I'm not even Japanese. I don't
It don't matter, man. You know what?
Oh,
it is.
now he's splitting the difference. Last week he wasn't.
Nah, man. Thought you were
We got a
K-pop
Korean
stan,
player.
man.
We got a Korean player.
Juno Lee. Yeah.
I'm all in, baby. That's my guy. I've always loved him. Really, I've been keeping up with him since a week ago.
This guy was IU stan account for 2 days.
Yeah, the Lakers. It would be fascinating to see him and LeBron win a championship together. I think it would be hilarious.
Oh, God.
But yeah, the Lakers, right? Because when's the last time the Lakers won a championship? Kobe, right? So it's like, it's really.
What about 2020?
We're not counting the bubble.
Guys,
That was intentional.
anyone-
Obviously.
Yeah. Does anyone? It's like the Dodgers winning the. It is ironic that the 2 LA teams both won championships in the year where nobody. That was the last thing on anyone's mind.
I wonder if their fans have reflected on that the teams could only win without them.
Well,
Man. Yeah, I don't know. A lot.
I can't really make fun of Dodgers fans are living great. Like, so I can't really even say anything. But Lakers fans, it's like, Come on, man, be serious. You used to have like class, you used to have
Yo, this guy talking about
standards as an
class.
organization.
That's how I know the Warriors dynasty is over. When Andy Liu is asking for class.
This guy watched one episode of John C. Riley
Holy
as
Yo, it's sad to see Andy Liu in this state, man.
Buddy, come join us on this side, man. When you don't win championships no more,
Brother, I know you got family in
excitement don't
Toronto,
hit the
bro.
same, man.
Don't make me dox you.
Man, we Bob Myers. You're about to be Steve Kerr.
Last one for you, Andy. 2 minutes on this for you. I found it so hilarious that Bob Myers like soft launched his exit last season with a podcast as the Warriors were trying to get into the playoffs, preparing for the postseason. Yeah, just tell me about Bob Myers, man.
He quit. Man.
He quit like Sleepy's quitting right now. I mean, those guys are done, man. I love Bob. I think he's the nicest guy. He's nice to everyone.
Yeah.
He's invited me to play basketball with him. I didn't play with him, but he he's just a good dude. I think he knew that it was gonna come down to him having to tell Clay, I can't pay you. You're gonna be gone. Him having to tell Draymond, having these same tough conversations, and I just think he didn't want to do it. And I can't blame him. I know Warriors fans kind of give him crap. Because he's made some bad draft picks. I don't really care because the Warriors won a championship. Although it'd be nice if Tyrese Halliburton was on this team instead of, I don't know, any of these guys. But I always enjoy Bob Myers. To me, he always felt like he cared more about the players than just let's make this trade. Let's worry about the contract here. I don't know. I've got a soft spot for that type of stuff. So you're not gonna get me to say anything too bad about Bob. But I know people kind of kill him a little bit. But some people also say he's a little fake. You remember the crying with Kevin Durant tearing his Achilles.
I was there on the podium as he stepped off, man. The face was dry. Just saying. I just report what I hear when I'm literally right there for. That's all.
Player agents are always, they got a lot of faces. They got a lot of faces. But Mike Dunleavy. So let me end it there. Let me end that part there. Is that I think Mike Dunleavy is probably someone that is the opposite of that. I think he'll look at this team come to trade deadline. If he needs to trade Chris Paul, if he needs to trade Klay Thompson, I don't know what's that contract, but if he needs to trade Klay Thompson, if he needs to trade Kuminga, I think he'll get it done. Wow. It wouldn't surprise me if he needs to get off that Draymond contract because now it's looking pretty nasty. He will get it done. So I think there are going to be fireworks for the Warriors in the trade deadline.
Yeah, we'll call you. We'll call you when that happens. But I guess you've already kind of accepted that it's going to fall apart. Like it's not going to hit you by surprise.
This guy asked Lakers fans for class, man. He's done.
Yeah,
Andy Liu officially cooked.
Let's get him out of here.
I'm a baseball football guy now. Brock Purdy is it for me.
This guy's a Debo Samuel Stan account now. Man. Get out of here.
All right.
That is who I am.
Check Andy and Sam out on the Light Years pod, and definitely follow Andy Liu on Twitter. Must follow.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to find him.
Those Spotify links about to hit at 3 a.m.
You're not. He's on the West Coast. What do you want, man? Now the funny thing about finding Andy's account is that there's no pictures of him on the profile. It's just when you see the K-pop artist tilted 90 degrees, then you know you found the right account. But
Andy, we love you, bro.
love.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Much love. Thanks, y'all. You take care.
Take care,
man.
guys.
That's the San Mateo legend, right?
You forgot he rocked a Shohei Ohtani to Coachella
Yeah, he did.
with floral shorts.
Yeah, he did for a while.
Oh,
What a guy, man.
Warriors are cooked.
Damn.
Are they cooked? That's it.
Have we ever gotten in trouble with PR like that?
What are you talking about?
No, to that
We
degree?
just don't share it on air.
Oh, we should more often.
Oh my God, are you kidding
We
me?
should more often.
Anyways,
Yeah.
remember
Oh.
the bingo card last year?
Oh, I do remember the bingo card. You know what? You're right, actually.
Anyways,
Yeah.
do your speedy exit.
Yeah, I thought it was a good show today, boys.
Where's JR? He can wrap it up. He introed us. Let him outro.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just trying to
maybe
eat
I'll do
Will
my-
seconds to see how fast he can.
Maybe I'll do my JR impersonation.
Surprise chain winners tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
2 of them.
Okay. Wow.
2 chain winners will be joining us remotely.
Got you. All right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So that does it for us today. I'm your host, Will Lou. JR Manatad. You've been listening to the Raptor Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you Riz the Raptors show by subscribing to our podcast and reviewing our show, telling us how much riz we got. And big thanks to Dennis Schröder, Andy Liu, producer and co-host Alex Wong, my vest, Blake Murphy, my other vest, our board producer, Derek Brandale, Jennifer Rolnick, David Sis, and Will Liu for helping behind the scenes. We'll see you tomorrow.